Stephanie Ederman.
Here.
Randy Heiser.
Here.
Sarah Spears.
Here.
Sean Ward.
Here.
Sorry, we're going to call the meeting to order. Thank you. All right, this meeting of the Brainerd School Board is being conducted in accordance with Minnesota Statutes 13D.02. This meeting is being recorded and access to the recording is available on the school district's YouTube channel. We'll look for a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion.
Second.
We've got a motion by Director Donalinger and a second by Director Ward. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, the same. Motion passes. We've got a number of recognitions here tonight to share. You are welcome to jump in, team, if you'd like to. I'll take a few. We'll just head around the table if anybody'd like to jump in. We extend our deepest gratitude to our incredible volunteers and community members who generously give their time, energy, and support to our schools. Your dedication makes a lasting impact on our students, staff, and families. Because of you, our district is not just a place of learning, but a true community. And congratulations to Brady Davison for earning 6th place in humorous interpretation in the Minnesota State High School League State Speech Tournament. Congratulations to our Warrior Athletes of the Year, Maya Tauges and Ty Nelson. And congratulations to Dan Anderson for being named the Girls Swimming and Diving Head Coach of the Year. And congratulations to the following students for qualifying for the Minnesota Music Educators Association All-State Ensembles: Madeline Ball for All-State Treble Choir, Michaela Kahi for All-State Mixed Choir, and Paul Sandberg for All-State Orchestra.
I'm going to go. Congratulations to the following students on being honored as Sourcewell's 2024 Students of Character: Emma Voss, BLC, Haley Rudolph, Atlas and LAC, Bella Volke, BHS, and Bridget Wells, BHS. Sourcewell recognizes high school juniors and seniors for their quiet leadership within their communities and schools. Congratulations to Baxter students of the quarter for 4th quarter. Kindergarten: Zachary Beckett, Camden Exie, Ileana Fisher, Everly Henning, Nora Kuipers. 1st grade: Gavin Fisher, Lola Hidalgo, Aubrey Kramer, Alexis Quirm, Buddy Sawyer Scott. 2nd grade: Wesley Bethune, Ari Bjorkvet, Cohen Lax, I'm going to mess that one up, Lackhelt, Griffin Sharp, Nick Willen. 3rd grade: Daxton Anderson, Henning Anderson, Cruz Bender, Talon Milbrandt, Isla Chan. 4th grade: Elsie Anderson, Gunnar Bible, Elliot Carroll, Kaylee Hansen, Maisie Cargill, Isla Katzenberger, Sydney Knudsen, Alexis Miller, Brecken Peterson, Justin Masberg.
I'll go. Brainerd Public School is proud to be the recipient of the Minnesota's Comprehensive Arts Planning Program, CAPP, award from the Perpich Center for Arts Education. In the history of the program, this will be our 20th CAP cohort. CAP is a legislative funded program to support and assist a local school district arts planning team in creating a district-wide 3-year strategic plan. The award is for 2025 through 2027. Congratulations to Brainerd High School teacher Nicole Harmer for being honored with the Innovator of the Year award.
I can go. Congratulations to the following Brainerd School District staff for being recognized at the Educators Excellent Program held in April. Teachers of Excellence: Erin LePage, Atlas LEC, Wendy Modis, BHS, Jolene Parks, BLC, Michelle Pfeiffer, Nisswa, Stacy Podal Erdel, Riverside, Ann Reed, Baxter, Brenda Sanis, Forest View, Kristen Smith, Garfield, and Pillars of Excellence were Twyla Eric Belton, BLC, Sarah Francis, Atlas LEC, Lois Gagné, Nisswa, Megan Gates, Riverside, Rick Jensen, BHS, Carol Cruz, Garfield, Karen Roglowski, Baxter, and G. Westfall, Forest View.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer.
Did I say that wrong?
I don't think
Oh,
so.
okay, yeah.
It's just a good name.
It is a good name.
Good teacher. All right, moving on to public input. A member of the public can address the board during this time. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Complaints or allegations against students or employees may not be discussed due to data privacy. Complaints or allegations must be submitted in writing to Superintendent Grant. The Board of Education and the superintendent will not converse with guests to address the topics discussed at that time. No visuals or props will be allowed. All right, first up, we have Terry Frovick, please.
Thank you, Board, for the opportunity to say hello and to encourage you as you shepherd a culture of excellence and success within this public school. I went to high school back in the 60s, Edison High School, Northeast Minneapolis. I was one of those kids at risk that came to school. And thank God for my coaches, my teachers, whom I remember and just love. Our school was totally white, and except the school board had the brilliance of hiring one black teacher, Mel Bates, who was one of my favorite teachers. He taught us biology and anatomy, and he was also a coach. And but there were janitors and people working in the lunchroom that were also excellent, and they saw who I was, and they nurtured me as best they could. Mr. Willie, our counselor, called me into his office and said, you know, that girlfriend you have, don't get too close. And it was good. It was good to have that kind of support. So here's what I wanted to say is public input comes and you guys hear that and you discern it and you go about your business and you argue and you make your case. But when you do this, recognize that you're doing your work for the teachers as well as the students, to give the teachers this sense of support and encouragement to go beyond what they do in reading, writing, and arithmetic, to see the kids. I think that's extremely important, and I thank you. So have fun as a school board together and pass that on to the teachers. Meet with the teachers. Have dinner with the teachers. Create a culture of success through relationships. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. All right, next up, we have Melissa Hoag.
Good evening. We do not hide that which we think is right. We hide that which we know is wrong. I'm here to address many concerns many parents are experiencing but afraid of retaliation towards their athlete if they speak up. Most disappointing and discouraging is the dismissive attitude, indifference, and unwillingness to address the complaint presented to compromise so this athlete is not prevented from participating in activities of their choosing. Administration has taken the time to hear these issues but have lacked any notification of us on the outcomes and corrective measures taken, Policy 103. We have been told that the school has a closed-door practice policy, but administration has never came forward with that policy. These doors are locked, barring entry, creating safety issues for multiple students. An athlete with a medical disability with a medical provider's letter stating parents to observe the athlete at practice to assess them for early neurological signs and symptoms of a potentially dangerous medical situation have been denied that right because the school has, quote, a closed-door practice policy. The excessive amount of mandated requirements for fundraising is outrageous. Multiple fundraising events all year, during and outside of the season, have included raffles for firearms and alcohol. Parents in recovery have been assigned to visit liquor establishments to obtain donations for fundraising events and to deliver that alcohol to school for the coach for multiple years. There's a lack of transparent financials. Payments made to this program have been cashed and housed by a booster club, not the school board, as Policy 713 directs on program-specific association and viewed as a donation or fundraised, not as an invoiced charge. Our monthly statements are altered month to month with different charge amounts for items appearing one month and disappearing the next month. My presence here tonight is to seek the assistance of the board to insist the district have more standardized, transparent operational procedures within its athletic activity, to follow the majority of other school-sponsored athletics, to be more consistent with its programs, to put a stop to the mistrust, to stop the mistrust of trust, power, and authority by those who find it within their school administration role to tell a parent, quote, "We have consulted our attorney," unquote. All correspondence received by you, quote, "will be reviewed to determine if a response is even necessary. If no response is warranted, you will not receive a reply," unquote. It is now up to that administration to question if a question we have is worthy enough to even warrant a response. The district is lumping 4 separate activities and teams into one athletic school program. This is deceitful route that has created school sponsor activity to be a 10 and a half, 11-month season.
That's 3 minutes. Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. All right, next up, we have Natasha and Contre Hamilton.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good evening, board and community members. I would like to address a couple concerns I have as a parent of a student of ISD 181. I've reflected on why I've struggled actually to come and speak again. And I realized today it was because my son's been retaliated against so much that it made me as a parent silenced. I can't let that stop me from telling you guys how I feel about certain things and what is going on. I've watched previous board meetings and I feel that our input may help answer some questions or share some insight. There's been a lot of discussion regarding children transferring out of the district. Why? Well, I can say bullying is a big reason. I can say lack of being heard and feeling heard from parents is a big reason, and lack of children feeling safe and heard at school is a big reason. The complacency and microaggressive behaviors from the very people that we're supposed to be trusting with the safety of our kids is appalling to me as a parent. When I advise, excuse me. There have been questions about students with truancy and attendance issues, maybe addressing the many, many issues with Reichert's transportation situations would be really important to have. We've experienced many things personally that have been disheartening. I've spoken with the manager of transportation, whom laughed at me when I advised that she was violating my son's right to FERPA when giving a disciplinary action without allowing us to view the video. I made a formal complaint. I did a formal letter. I did everything I as a parent should do. Where do we go next, right? Because nothing has been done. It's past the time frame. So that is why we're now here. He's spoken up for himself as well to be met with a very disturbing reaction from someone he should have been able to trust and feel safe with. I feel like you should be aware, as multiple parents have, I know, complained about this certain individual being more aggressive and abrasive towards children that are from different cultural backgrounds. I have made complaints, and yet he is still there. My son still has to see him and face him every day. I'm actually gonna let my son now speak for himself.
Every day at school, I have to see him at lunch while I'm lining up. And today, we took the Sabres test. If you don't know what that is, it's evaluating your school and how it acts towards you. One of the questions was, do you feel safe at school? I had to put sometimes, because not only did once a kid had cornered me in the bathroom saying, how does it feel to be black? And another time, a girl on the bus saying, you don't get a cupcake just because you're black. And that's not all.
Sorry, buddy.
I'm sorry, we gotta
We're
stop.
at 3 minutes.
Yeah, we gotta stop.
Thank you for being so brave and coming up and sharing with us.
We'll come back again. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you. All right, next up, we have Lowell Johnson, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lowell Johnson. I live down near Fort Ripley. I'm a retired educator, and over the last dozen years or so, I found myself being a student of brain science and working in community mental health. And I'm here tonight to basically encourage the work that already has begun around student mental health, because mental health is essential to academic health and to success later on in life. Looking at over the agenda today, I noticed, and you already went through it, all of the different student athletes and musicians who've been recognized. Recognition is very important. Please keep doing that. The Sourcewell recognition of students of character, also leadership, good things happening with students being recognized by the board. I really appreciated the Baxter Elementary students of character, because we're talking with kindergartners and little kids now. And again, everyone needs to be recognized for their efforts and successes. And also the Minnesota Comprehensive Arts Planning Program. Arts are so important throughout the lifespan, and also to the health of a school and a community. Also, there's just the fact that you, later on in the agenda, I see you have a safety and welcoming schools committee. Kids need to feel safe in order to learn. So the fact that that exists, kudos to you, and a wellness task force to make sure that wellness efforts are being addressed throughout the district. And then two things not on the agenda, but I'm aware that they were at the Lighthouse Project at the high school. Julie Christensen's a friend of mine, and she just glows with the student leadership that's happening in the Lighthouse Project. And also early childhood family education, getting to parents and young children. The most important years of brain development are birth to age 4, and they're doing it. So kudos to that program that you're supporting. I'm going to end my last night with a personal story I know of. This happened 2 years ago. A young man was living in another district, highly dysfunctional, high ACEs trauma environment. His father lives in the Brainerd School District and was able to get custody of him. So as a senior, he comes to Brainerd High School, and he's done basically nothing. He checked out of school because of what was going on. And I don't know what the magic of Brainerd High School did. I want to say caseworker, but it's a different term. They got him to graduate. He was able to catch up on all of the requirements to graduate from high school in Minnesota. So he's doing great now. You saved a life. You did what's really important to do. So thank you.
Thank you, Lowell. Thanks for sharing. All right, we'll move on to the approval of minutes from our regular school board last month.
Motion.
Second.
We've got a motion by Director Dondelinger and a second by Director Edelman. Any discussion? If not, all those that approve say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. And let's move on to the minutes from the special school board meeting on April 21st.
I'll make a motion, we approve those minutes.
Second?
We've got a motion from Director Brecken and a second from Director Heidemann. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? All right. Moving on to the consent calendar. We have a number of things in this consent calendar this month, including the staff changes and leaves, donations and grants, bill payments, the Brainerd easement agreement, which I believe has gone through committee, and a couple of field trips.
Madam Chair? Question on the donation. I can't pull it up.
I don't see it either. I was gonna ask the same thing. Staff changes, leaves, donations.
This has to do with, there was a $14,000 grant or a donation for ISD construction. I think it
Oh,
was
that,
made by
just for kicks.
Just for Kicks. Oh.
Yep.
I saw it last month.
Yeah, what are we constructing?
I think it wasn't ever put on the donations list, because people didn't realize that that would need to be on there. So this is from before when they donated to the space, and they added that extra gym at the high school.
Oh, okay, cool. No, I mean, it was a large amount and it just kind of, whoa,
Yeah, it's passed, it just.
really
was
nice,
never
yeah,
approved,
okay.
From my understanding.
Another, Madam Chair, another bigger, as Director Heidemann notified, the sports boosters donated $8,500 for some weight room equipment, which, you know, those are big donations that, I mean, we all, like all donations, and we appreciate all of them, but significant ones, like, call them out. So, thank you, sports boosters.
Thank you. We'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, just, could I ask about the staff changes and leaves? On that is the list of ULAs. So typically, if there's positions, can you, Mr. Grant, tell us, Superintendent Grant, could you tell us if there's openings down the road, do ULAs, do the people that were put on a ULA, they have
5 years. 5 years access, so that they can reapply if they so choose. They have
Okay.
to notify the district if they're interested, and then they have that opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Couldn't they apply after 5 years?
Yeah, but I mean, legally, we,
Oh, we have to,
Right.
got it,
Yeah.
okay.
Good question.
Thank you.
You looking for a motion?
Second.
Thank you. Yes, I am.
Well, you got a second.
Thank you. All right, we've got a motion by Director Donnellinger, a second by Director Heidemann. Any further discussion on the consent calendar? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same.
And I have to abstain.
Thank you. Did you get that, Kelly?
Michelle was saying.
An abstention, yep. All right, moving on to new business. We have the 9 through 12 ELA curriculum presentation presented by Alan Hewitt and Carla Shepherd-Johnson. And Melissa Cornea, please. Welcome.
Thank you for having us. Nice to see you all again. We will be presenting tonight on the Brainerd High School 9 through 12 curriculum that we have done extensive research on. My name is Carla Shepherd-Johnson, and I've taught the high school for 13 years.
And I'm Alan Hewitt, and I've been here for 32 years. And I'm Melissa Cornea. I'm our K-12 Literacy and Humanities Coordinator, and I've been here less than a year. But we're very happy you're here. I can speak to this. This is our curriculum process. That first part is linked. That is just, in general, the guidance of every content area. This is what the curriculum and instruction review process should look like. This year, the 9-12 ELA, they really had a rigorous journey. We had to do 2 parts of the process in 1 year, and so kind of a condensed process. So I applaud this group and how they dug in and really committed to the work. So that first step is collective understandings around the new standards. So the new standards, Minnesota ELA English and Language Arts 2020 standards. And so first learning about those standards and then being able to make recommendations of what does that mean for our 9-12 curriculum. So you'll see there the calendar and our process. That first part, October 4th through February 26th, really was about that collective understanding. How deeply do we understand the shifts in the new Minnesota standards? And then what does that mean for moving forward of what we need, what our students need? And so we come to you today both to talk about that collective understanding and our recommendation for a resource.
Our vision at the high school and English department is to create critical thinkers, and not only to have reading and writing strategy, but also speaking skills that ideally we are hoping that they will be resilient and have grit in their future outside of high school, as well as obviously during their high school career.
Every 5 years, the MDE takes a look at the standards of all disciplines and makes suggestions as it relates to our change in population, our change in our needs, what kind of things are going on. If you look at this slide right here, these are the major shifts in standards for the 2025 year. Emphasis on student choice and self-selection, emphasis on including multiple perspectives, and emphasis on Indigenous experience, awareness, or perspective in text. It doesn't mean that those things haven't existed in the past, but it's intentional now. If we don't have it someplace, it needs to be placed in there.
As Alan said, as far as assessments, one of the huge shifts is having more student choice on different types of assessments. So more open-ended questions, project-based assessments, and a lot of discussions. And I know the science department very much has done a lot of discussion-based this year at BHS. And when we were presenting to DAC, they asked a really good question about how can you engage like an apathetic learner during a discussion? And we really talked about how everyone in our department will have to be really intentional and model that, and how like effective discussions go to try and engage everyone the entire time. And we'll really also rely on a lot of our science colleagues and what worked for them this year, and pros and cons for them so that we can improve.
For those of you from the business world, if you think about collaboration 25 or 30 years ago, and what you do, what you're doing in your offices and your businesses now, how collaboration has changed so much, how you need those different perspectives and those different points of view. That's what we're starting to model in the schools. That's the emphasis we're trying to strike to.
And I'll add on to that that's a shift in the Minnesota standards too. Typically, I'm sure you've all experienced or have the high school memories of standing and presenting in front of your peers, once or twice, the big presentation, the big public speaking event. And it's not that no longer is part of it, but it is shifting to how do you effectively communicate through conversation, collaboration, and discussion. So instead of focusing solely on something like this, where it's presentation, layering in, we need to equip students with the ability to discuss, to collaborate, and to really think through who are we communicating with and what does that mean for our conversation.
Another focus in the instruction is shifting to essential questions, and we've already started working on this, like with our new novel with Hate List. We've really worked on that this year just to kind of plan for next year, because that's a big shift in the standards. And again, including those multiple perspectives as well.
Is that book that you guys talked to us about before?
Yeah, we just rolled that out in the last month or so, and it has been a great success. It really has been wonderful. There's been a buzz. You don't get the kids to buzz about anything, by the way. But if you ask them why, if they understand why we're reading the book, they get it. They get it, and we had a great deal. It was a whirlwind. There was a lot of things, and we're all excited about being able to teach it for the second time next year, but very successful from our point of view anyways. So we're here to talk about new resources for next year. We've been using a collection series for a number of years, and for a number of reasons we've been asked to move on. And we have landed on something called Common Lit. And Common Lit is an online resource. Everything is accessible online with a number of add-ons that are going to be very, very helpful, not only in instruction, but as it relates to the new Minnesota standards. I've spent a lot of time in my career creating the assessments. Creating a lot of that has already been done for this in the Common Lit. Do you want to talk more about this at this point? Yeah.
Yeah. So Common Lit, the idea is that for this next year, we would pay the $6,000 for the extra access. The extra access includes access to assessments that are beyond what are built into the unit, the free assessments that are built into each unit. That includes kind of a data dashboard that you can see with those assessments. Those assessments are more of a cold read like you would see on an MCA type assessment or ACT. So it's here's a text you've never read before in a multiple choice assessment. So we'd like to spend the $6,000 so that we can get access to that and learn from that this year. Having talked to other districts in the state, they've said that really that one time, that 1 year access is enough to kind of see what is there, what is available, and what does that mean for us with the Minnesota standards and our assessments. This cost also includes professional development opportunities that are kind of twofold. One, getting acclimated to the resource of Common Lit and all that it can provide, but also then, for example, that data piece of how do you actually learn from your data and do better by students with that. And so that is our ask, is $6,000. I believe the quote is actually $6,500 for 1 year for Common Lit, but then we would continue to use Common Lit after that but it's a free resource.
One of the amazing features, in my opinion, about Common Lit, there are a lot of Brainerd High School students that are English language learners, so English is their second language, and by a click of a button, there are when I scrolled through it, there was at least 50 different languages that they could choose from. So students can read it online with their native language, and I think that's so important. And just seeing students, smile, seeing like their language represented like on the screen, I think is really important. I think that will really help our English language learners at BHS.
Is that part of the free resource?
Yes.
Oh, it is.
Yep.
Okay.
That we won't lose.
Okay.
Yep.
That's great.
I think also when I think of Common Lit, the things that we've talked about of how does it bring in text across different perspectives, it provides a lot of text. So it builds a unit, and we can show you both that. So this is what scope and sequence would look like 9th through 12th grade. And so it builds a unit, and it builds a unit thematically. So that thematic inquiry, and you might have a core text, but then you also have multiple texts beyond it. So for example, with Romeo and Juliet, it is, and I think you've, well, no, I don't think this group has heard us talk about this. So for Romeo and Juliet, what's the broader life question that we should be digging into, and what are other texts that can help us explore this? So it's not so much, here's what you should think about Romeo and Juliet, and here's what you should think about life. Instead, it's, here's the bigger life question. Let's engage in text and discussion and reading and writing to grapple with that bigger life question.
I'm gonna go back to this right here when you talked about, or maybe forward now. Right here, you can see that there are 6 units per grade that have already been created. We wouldn't probably use all 6 because
for instance, hate list on our sophomore curriculum would replace one of those. But there's enough variety in each one of these units that you don't even have to do the whole unit. There's just a lot of things that we have access to that's already been created. I just want to say one more thing about the 6,000. Dr. Grant, how much money have you spent over your career for textbooks?
I could live on an island all by myself.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a rough transition for some of us, but the online resource, I think, is really, I really think there's so much potential there. And certainly the cost is minimal compared to buying those textbooks. What kind of questions do you have for us?
Well, you keep mentioning the Minnesota state standards. We got the Minnesota state standards. We need to follow the Minnesota state standards. What standards are these? What is this part of the READ Act? Is this MDE?
Great question. So it is not part of the READ Act. The READ Act is more specific legislation that.
I'm familiar with it. I just wondered where's this coming from?
Great question. So the Minnesota state standards, and now that I'm thinking of it, they're written by, Alan?
Well, they start with Pearson, which everything starts with Pearson. And then MDE refines the standards. I've been on these committees for a number of years. They have ad hoc committees that you come in and you'll take a look at the passages or you'll look at the questions, or you look at the data from the questions, the feedback. And so this started back in the 90s, where we started with Governor Palenti, and I'm not going to get the director. Do you remember who his first MDE director was?
The commissioner at that time?
Yeah.
Ellis Seagram, wasn't it?
No. Started with her. It started with her, and every 5 years they revise these. So they're best on best practices, on common, common lit, a number of state and national standards.
So when you shop for this curriculum, I mean, I Googled it. I know what I'm doing. But anyways, is this just a list that MDE approves, and then we just look at this is the 5, kind of like the READ Act was? Or are you just looking at what's going to be the best thing for Brainerd schools, and this is where you guys landed, and it happens to fall into the deal? Which is it?
Good question. So MDE, you're spot on with your thinking that they have approved K-5 curriculum.
Yeah.
They are not touching 6-12 curriculum.
Well, this is what you guys like.
And so exactly, and the idea of Minnesota being unique in their standards. So Common Core, I don't know if you remember that there was that era of the national standards. There's different states that have adopted them. And so majority of curriculum is going to be tailored to the Common Core. To find a resource that is specific to Minnesota, we don't have it. So that idea of a Minnesota standards aligned curriculum isn't going to be created for us. But what Common Lit does is Common Lit does say, okay, what state are you? Here's how what we've created aligns to your state. So when I think of, you were just talking, there was a question, we won't get into the weeds of it, but if you do click on that document, you can see kind of getting into the weeds of what does Minnesota 2020 look like compared to 2010, compared to Common Core, and what does that mean when we look at assessments? So there's a question I know you were looking at on our day a couple weeks ago where the assessment that Common Core is providing, it asked a question, but the question was only looking at one text. And I know I remember you saying like, but our benchmark for 10th grade says you have to compare across multiple texts. So that means Common Lit is giving us a really great product, but how are we gonna make sure then that, okay, it's saying it aligns with this benchmark, and then we are going to vet and make sure that, okay, this is what it actually means to align with it. So it does say, here's where we align, and then that but here's where you need to look to make sure that things are tightly aligned.
If I could just address the process, how we got to Common Lit. We just didn't jump to Common Lit. We first had to get past, we're not going to be using real books anymore, the textbook. We had to have that conversation. And then we had to have the conversation of what all is out there in terms of OER resources. And kind of look at them from a 10,000 point view. And then just started doing our research and started dialing in, okay, this resource does this for us, and it'll do this, and it'll do this. I don't think any resources are gonna be perfect, but I think that within the last 2 months, Melissa's worked us for the year, and Ms. Lundgren has worked. I think that we've had more excitement about Common Lit and curriculum in the last 2 months than we have in the last 2 years. I mean, we're finally into the weeds on this thing. It's a lot of work, you know, and it takes a lot of time, but I don't know if that helps.
Well, yeah, that's great. So you guys went from books to computers, basically. It's all gonna be online.
Yes.
Are the resources online, the books online too? Or do you, because you have hard copies
Of some books, we
of
do.
some, okay.
Yeah.
So it's a combination.
Mhm.
Okay.
Madam Chair? Obviously, you guys feel very comfortable with this,
Yes.
okay? And I guess I'm to the point, and I think I'll follow what Madam Chair has said numerous times. I'm gonna trust the teachers. But I'm also gonna look at accountability. I mean, we can have the greatest curriculum in the world, and we can have, you know, the greatest teachers in the world, but we also need to see results. And I'm not throwing any spears at anybody, but hopefully we see the results of all the work. It sounds like you guys have put in a lot of work. And I can't remember if I was at the DAC meeting or if I was out of town or whatnot when you guys presented, but it sounds like this is some pretty good stuff.
What I
But-
can, or go ahead.
But again, the accountability and the achievement and, you know, what our students are learning is very important. And with all the time and effort you've put in, I trust that you have chosen a good curriculum and a process for doing this. So thank you.
That will be part of our work next year is being able to really look at, okay, kind of like you heard the example with Alan of, here's the assessment, is it actually aligned to Minnesota standards? But then the next step is how are students doing on that, right? And being able to look at student data and say, our students aren't performing, and then looking back at ourselves. And I'm proud of this team for being so aware of their impact.
Do you guys use FastBridge?
Yes,
Okay, so you're gonna see results.
yes.
Cool.
And I just had my students actually take the Fast Bridge reading assessment
Mhm.
today, and I was analyzing their winter and spring scores, and many of them improved, which was great.
Yeah.
And Director Heidman, you talk about accountability, and I'm with you 100% on that. But I've been through a number of these processes over every 5 years. Never have I, and Dr. Grant, maybe you might be able to address this, never have I seen the state so determined, the local school district determined, the administration determined to make sure that these standards get integrated in the curriculum. I've never seen the alignment like that.
Great,
Good sign.
great.
What do you guys think about these computers? I know personally, I read a lot faster out of something that's not on a computer, and I seem to retain it a lot better as well. Italy's done with computers after this school year. Netherlands is done with computers. Sweden's done with computers, because they don't think the kids are learning properly. Have you noticed any of that, or is this gonna be your first time around where you're actually going to everything online before you've had paper books?
With collections, we also had an ebook and a paperback copy.
So you've been doing both? Do you notice a difference?
Right.
I mean, I'm just asking your opinion. I don't think, there's not a right or wrong answer. I'm just curious what you guys
It
think.
honestly
You're
depends
there.
on the student and their learning style, to be honest.
It's not an answer.
But that's the answer. It does depend. Just like all 7 of you would be different.
Just like our salesman, I just want a yes or no.
Yeah, right, right.
I will say that the team has been very mindful of that. What role is technology playing in our classrooms? And it's a point of learning that we're going to dig into next year, from AI to reading on computer to book copy, and that's the complexity of reading, writing, speaking, and listening, is that we live in a world that's online, and yet we know the limitations of it. And so this idea of, how do we, for example, and this is, I think, the learning that we're digging into, when we have 9th graders come in and we really want to hone in on what reading looks like at BHS, the best place for that to start is often on paper, right? And so the paper version is not out the window, and I think it's very much skilling our students up to be successful in both worlds, because it's no longer both worlds anymore.
And I believe that we're in this period of transition, and it's very bumpy, and as transitions are. I can remember when the little handheld calculators came out, and my brother and I saved up and bought one for my dad. And he said, well, what am I going to do with this? And he said, well, you can figure out your checkbook, you can do that. And he grabbed this, he says, I have a pen for that. We don't know what we don't know yet here moving forward about the combo platter. It certainly seems like the technology is here to stay. And it certainly is much cheaper than killing the trees, I guess. But yeah, I think it's a learning curve here.
Any other questions from the group? This is great information. Thank you for putting in all this hard work.
Thank you.
Really good.
Thank you.
Someone's gotta make a motion.
I will make a motion that we approve the ELA 912 curriculum.
I'll second it.
All right, we've got a motion by Director Brecken and a second by Director Edelman. Any discussion?
Does that include the $6,000?
Yep.
Okay. I want to just be sure.
All right. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the insurance presentation presented by Marcy Lord and Laura Blazer from National Insurance Service. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, everybody. You did a great introduction, Sarah. Laura Blazer from National Insurance Services. I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint. This is just a real shortened or condensed version, actually, of what was presented to the Benefits Committee. I don't want to bore you guys. So I'm going to let her go through this presentation, and then I will kind of summarize what the recommendation of the committee was. And if you have questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you so much. As Marcy mentioned, my name is Laura Blazer. I am part of the NIS team that supports the district. I'm just going to go ahead to our different pictures here. On the left, we have Aaron Casper. He is our employee benefits consultant, really leading the strategy for the district. And then I am the account executive. I really support the district and employees and Marcy and the administrative team with recommendations around the benefits packages. And then we have many other faces on our team that also support in our recommendations and employees and questions throughout the year. And then I just want to mention Peary Guilfoyle is our Director of Health Plan Analytics. He's really the math brains behind our analytics. He looks at how our plan is performing and helping us make those financial recommendations, which we're bringing forward to you today.
Where are you out of?
We are out of the Twin Cities Metro. Our office is in Eden Prairie.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So to give you a little bit of an overview on our medical claims and how our plan has been performing, we do track loss ratios. So what we're really looking at is what are our claims costs, medical claims costs coming into the plan, and then how does that compare to the premium that we're bringing into the plan? So we target 85%, meaning we have 85% of claims paid to premium coming in, And if we sit in that range, when we look at our loss ratios, we expect a trend increase. Medical trend is anywhere from 8 to 10%, kind of depending upon the geography in the state of Minnesota, a little bit higher in southern Minnesota, a little bit lower in the Twin Cities metro, and again, 8 to 10% kind of across the state. Over the last 12 months, when we look at that loss ratio of claims to premium, our plan is performing at about 107%, so a little bit higher than where we target. We also look at a second loss ratio. So the first loss ratio at the 107 is just looking at our medical claims to that premium. The second loss ratio is when we add in our administrative costs. So the cost of administering our self-insured medical plan, the cost of our reinsurance, which is stop loss protection that the district purchases. There's two different types of that stop loss that we purchase. One is called specific stop loss, which caps our liability at $300,000 for any one claimant on our plan. That makes up the majority of those administrative costs because that protection is ensuring we don't have a really high claimant that costs us a significant amount. And then we also purchase aggregate reinsurance, which is essentially protection for all of our entire bucket of claims across our entire population. It caps our liability there. So when we add in those administrative costs and our claims and we look at that loss ratio, we're running at about 112%. So that's premium coming into the plan against our medical claims and our administrative costs. Any questions on that before I don't want to just keep going before I stop for questions.
How frequently do you have to go to your reinsurance?
We do that at renewal. So once a year, our reinsurance rates are evaluated.
Okay. When you say 112%, what do you mean by that?
So when we look at,
We took in 100 and they spent 112.
correct, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
Director Donlinger?
In the
Making it
reinsurance
easy
deal.
for me.
I understand this, I know what's going on in this presentation. I know about the curriculum, but I know about this.
So when we look at our renewal position for our September 1st renewal, our team, I mentioned Piri, we look at 24 months of claims data. And the reason that we do that is because that normalizes our claims a little bit. And also when we are out to market and evaluating those insurance and reinsurance costs, that's what the underwriters look at. So when we track that 24 months of claims experience, and then we blend those two periods of time together, right? So our most recent 12 months and the prior, and then we trend those forward. We use 7.8% trend for our last 12 months, 7.6% trend for the prior 12 months. And then what we do is we use that to trend those claims forward. So we say, these are our claims today. When we trend those forward, where do we expect those claims to be in the future as we're setting our rates moving forward? So when we look at how we're performing, when we look at the results of our medical bid this year and the competitive results that we received, our recommendation at NIS is a 3% increase on our medical insurance premiums. And part of the reason, with those loss ratios, we had the ability through the bid process to receive competitive quotes to help with containing those administrative costs, and then also just evaluating how the plan's been performing. And the claims were actually a little bit lower in our most recent 12 months. So when we take that into account and also our fund balance, that's where we developed that recommendation.
So is this almost $600,000 increase? Is that something that the school district picks up?
It depends on the contract. So the contribution is dependent on each group's contract, and some of them are.
What do you mean contribution?
The
Employee.
You're talking about the premium?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And, okay, so we have different plans
Yep.
that have different costs borne by the district and borne by the employee. And we also have plans where it's 100% paid by the district, correct?
You got it.
When you go, a catastrophic claim within a group
Yes.
will significantly impact your rate, the rate or the loss or whatever. How do you account for that? You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely, yes. So when our medical underwriters evaluate our risk, we provide them with our claims reporting, and they're analyzing for a group of our size, how many, there are catastrophic claims. How many claims would we expect? What are the diagnoses and conditions that we have within our population? And what is the likelihood that we will hit that $300,000 threshold? And they use that to develop a premium, essentially ensuring that the risk is appropriately insured from their side of the table and our side of the table as well. So they're evaluating that based on our claims data.
Thank you.
A lot of analytics.
So basically, what we really need to be doing is raising our rates 8%. And what we're doing is we're going 3% because we're gonna go into our surplus, and we're gonna whack that a little bit next year. But maybe we get lucky and our claims go down and we don't have to touch it.
The
Is that
other-
kind of where you're thinking because of your,
It is. The other component that I would mention is that we did complete a bid process this year, and our recommendation is making a transition, and am I stealing your thunder, Marcy? A transition to Health Partners in Crumdale
Medica.
as administrators of our plan, and the reason for that is their offer provides us a more competitive rates from a reinsurance perspective, and also the flexibility to receive more of our pharmacy rebate dollars back. And so when we take those into account, the fact that we'll be able to offset more costs using those dollars, that's why we're kind of bringing that down, if that makes sense.
perfect.
So that is a big component as well, not just leaning into reserve. It's that competitive bid process that we completed, and that recommendation change is being included in that.
That's a better deal.
Have you taken into account I don't remember the name of it, Mark, that telemed program that we just,
It's not a very big deal, John. You'll see it further in here.
Yes, yes.
all right.
Yes, and I was gonna say, we've got some of the additional data that was included in the board packet, but I'd be happy to speak, I can jump to that.
It'll be in here.
Yep, I can run to the Healthiest You. So this is our telehealth provider. This is really a full, robust offering, and this will remain in place. So this would not change. This is still really a first point of contact. We saw over $316,000 in claims redirection. What this really means is instead of someone going to urgent care under our medical plan benefits, they're able to receive the care that they need and get prescriptions in, I'll jump to that, within 7 minutes, and they're able to get a prescription about 70% of the time. And so instead of going into urgent care and spending, $400, for example, on a medical claim under our medical plan, the district has a capitated cost. People have unlimited access to this care, and it's also 24/7. So incredible savings and opportunity there. Those are other things we take into account when we're completing our analytics and recommendation.
I gotta think that that's saving us more money than just that. Just because of the whole, geez, on my break at lunch, I'm gonna call in and see if this is something I need to worry about. And then they're like, oh, you're fine, you can stay and keep going. Where before you'd probably be like, I gotta get out of here, find a sub to fill in for me. I gotta think it's saving us more than that number.
Secondary costs.
Yeah, well, I think, I would think so.
Absolutely, and the convenience factor is incredibly high.
But when you think we have $18 million in claims, that did save us $316,000, but, I mean, holy cow.
And I'll just, the other piece I'll point out, I'm jumping around a little bit, but if you see, so this data is capturing people complete a short survey after they use Healthiest You, and they say, where would you have gone if you hadn't had the option of Healthiest You? You can see 67% of people would have gone to urgent care, so that's a significant time investment and cost to the plan. And then some people would have gone to the emergency room or a specialist or primary care provider. So from a cost perspective, this is definitely delivering that convenience factor as well as helping redirect people's perception of just, hey, don't go to the emergency room if you have pink eye. There's a much more convenient option available too.
And I think this part's cool because in our previous provider, they would give us the savings, but they never asked a question. So I always was wondering how they calculated the savings. Like, I don't know if you were familiar with
Oh,
Grand
because if
Mountain.
when they ask the question, then you know if they're gonna go to urgent care, emergency room.
So this one, you
If they're
actually.
gonna, you actually know kind of what that
actually
would
know.
cost.
Whereas Grand Rounds.
That's slick.
They always told us what we were saving, but there was no
How do you
follow-up
get
question.
there?
How do you get there?
And that's really where that savings is generated from, is changing utilization patterns from an urgent care in most instances.
Is this, the use of this increasing as time goes on?
We've seen, so actually we had that question recently. If we use it a lot, there are components built into our contract that we can see increases, but On average, we've seen an increase of less than 50 cents per employee year over year. So even if we use it a lot and we do get an increase, it's been very nominal from that perspective, and the savings have more than outweighed that.
Or were you asking users? Like
I was also, yeah, that's what I was asking. Users, are there more people using it as they become more aware, familiar with?
Yes, we do have our utilization data here.
Oh,
We
okay.
actually are able to track that. So we can look at, since we started, we have 482 registrations from employees, 378 registrations from dependents. We love to see that dependent category grow because this is available to the household, not just employees, and those are people who are on our plan as well. But that's incredibly strong utilization, and we continue to track that. And also have conversations with the insurance committee and the administrative team about how we can continue to engage, re-engage, and remind people of this resource. And as we see, you know, you have done an incredible job of using this, and word of mouth also becomes a great way to continue and to encourage utilization. So this is something we track, usually every insurance committee meeting. We're looking at updated numbers and evaluating. We also look at kind of the month to month and how we're doing and performing, and if we see a dip, then we can make an adjustment in messaging or getting in front of staff to talk about it.
So a little over a third of our members are registered for the telehealth. They haven't used it, but they're registered for it, which is pretty impressive.
And what we find is if people are registered, they're more likely to use it when they need that. It takes about 5 minutes to register, but you know, if you're sick and you're not feeling well, kind of I don't know, what do I,
They might not
becomes
do
a
it.
roadblock. So we want to see those registrations be really strong so that when people need the care, they use it.
And they can register prior to needing the
Yes.
care, so.
Do you guys come and do like a little sign everybody up, meet with everybody?
Scan the QR code, download the app, and complete your registration.
You guys do that?
So Mackenzie Saylor, even though she didn't want to be named, our benefits specialist in the audience right here, she does a great job of deploying information through NIS, like, hey, what can I
Well, let's
send?
get some work out of NIS. I want that pilot guy to be up here, get him working a little bit.
Aaron, yes, I will let him know that you said that.
I don't have anybody working for me that does it. You wanna sell us insurance, get over here.
Yeah.
You know, this is a big project, I suppose, but that's what we do. It's like, you come in and maybe 2, 3 people show up and they just knock it out in a day. But you're not gonna knock this place out in a day, it's gonna take a couple.
It's okay, we're up to the challenge.
I figured.
So based on all that information, the recommendation is a 3% increase and then switching the providers, which is going to be a big transition, so
Pain.
yeah. Mackenzie's got her work cut out for her. Are there any other questions, or is there anything you want?
Just looking at your information here, Marcy, we got 818 employees with coverage, right? And retirees. How many retirees are using our insurance yet?
Ooh, know that off the top of your head?
Okay, and when does that end?
When they turn 65, or if it's admins, it's 70.
So Medicare age. Okay. And what we're going to approve tonight has nothing to do with who's paying the premium, except there's going to be an increase to the school district.
Well, maybe an increase to both.
Yeah, goes both ways.
It's just the premium's gonna go up around. The percentages of who pays what's gonna stay the same, but then the total dollars is gonna go up. So let's just say that you were paying $100 a month. It's going up 3% now, and you're gonna pay 103. The school district's gonna pay their percentage. So everyone's getting the
Whatever you
increase.
negotiate.
The increase is going together.
That's where I was,
Negotiations
that's what I
will
was
impact.
That's,
going with
that's
this.
all.
is-
So you're, okay.
We don't have anything to do with that. We're just going on to the insurance.
Does OPEB fall into place here at all with retirees?
Yes, so we pull those costs from our OPEB funds, so yes.
Okay.
Here's what blows my mind. You straighten me out if I got this screwed up, all right?
Do it, no.
All right, so
Good one, Marcy.
Stay in your lane, Marcy. So here's the deal though. So 2,429 members had 9.9 million in claims, and 55 members had 8.5 million. That's something. So those folks, it's a big deal. It's amazing what a couple big things can really do to spin this baby out of control. When you think about that, 2,400 people, and 53 is just about half our claims, like 45%.
But that's really typical in.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Oh, is it?
It is
Yeah.
very, you know, it's kind of that 80-20 rule.
Yeah, it is.
80%
I know,
dry.
but it's like when people that aren't used to seeing these kind of stuff see it, it's like, whoa, like you don't realize.
It is true, but it is very, very common and very consistent. That's part of what we evaluate and track as we evaluate our claims. And it's not uncommon for us to see, 20% or less of the population driving the majority of our total cost. But that is why we have our reinsurance policies, so that we're tempering the risk that we're taking on for those more significant claims.
Very similar to homeowners insurance,
Yep,
except that's worse.
because a hurricane hits Florida and we get an increase.
Right.
Yep, that's how it works.
What makes it catastrophic? Is it a dollar amount?
It is,
Okay.
yes. So that specific stop loss protection is $300,000. So essentially,
Okay.
the minute a claimant goes to $301,000, now we no longer, as the district, you're no longer paying any claims above and beyond that.
Okay.
And we've slowly increased that since I've been here.
Okay.
It was a lower.
That's when it goes to the reinsurance.
For that,
We've slowly increased that amount, so it was, I think, 200 when I first started.
Okay.
For that year or until the catastrophic, is done with?
In that year.
So it starts all over again next year?
It does. It's essentially a deductible, like your homeowner's
Yeah.
insurance policy.
Yeah.
It really is the same concept.
That's why there's actuary sciences, jobs.
Yes, yes.
Great. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll look for a motion to approve the revised insurance premiums.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
We've got a motion by Director Donnellinger, a second by Director Ward. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is our fund balance
Here's what's crazy to me.
in the healthcare still pretty dry?
All right, moving on to the approval of unrequested leave of absence resolution presented by Superintendent Grant.
So this is the difficult time of the year when across the state this happens, and we're not immune. So be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 181, Brainerd, as follows, that it is proposed that Garth Askergard, Allison Bullard, Madeline Hastings, Nedra Hedlund, Claire Horn, Bobby Crutchen, Bethany Mouse, and Brittany Nyberg, teachers of said school district, be placed on unrequested leave of absence without pay or fringe benefits effective at the end of the 24-25 school year on June 30th of 2025, pursuant to the Minnesota Statute Section 122A.40, Subdivision 10, along with applicable portions of Article 7, Section 2, Subdivision 1 through 6 of the current master agreement between school district and the exclusive representative, based upon the following grounds: financial limitations and discontinuance of position. That said, proposed placement on unrequested leave of absence is not the result of the implementation of the educational district agreement. That written notice be sent to said teacher regarding the proposed placement on unrequested leave of absence without pay or fringe benefits as provided by law, and said notice shall be a substantially the following form. And there's a letter, it says notice of proposed placement on unrequested leave of absence and notice of hearing if requested, dated May 13th, 2025. You want me to read the rest?
I make the motion.
I don't think we have to, right?
Okay, no.
All right, we've got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We've got a motion by Director Donnellinger, a second by Director Heidman. Any further discussion?
I got a couple questions. Are any of the folks that listed, tenured?
No,
So it's all probationary?
unless I should be clarify that, if they're the lowest one on the, or the highest one, I should say, depending how you want to count numbers, if they're lowest on tenured and that position was eliminated and non-tenured probationary teachers already lost their job, then the next person in line is the lowest person on the totem pole.
Yeah.
Yep.
If there's any, future retirements that we don't know about currently, will that, could that impact also?
It could. It could also open up where there's more shifting within the district because somebody, let's say I'm an art teacher, I retired, and let's say I'm in elementary art, and I thought, well, I might want to go to the high school. I could ask, can I be an applicant for that? Is that going to be an option for me? But otherwise, yes, you can recall those people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Once we approve them, then they need to reapply for any positions.
Correct.
That come up by the end
Yep.
if anything came up at the end of the year.
If they haven't sought their own employment
Right.
someplace else.
Right, yeah, okay.
These are positions that have been eliminated, correct?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to make sure in my mind.
So they're also eligible for unemployment then?
Correct. If they so choose.
Yep. I just wanted to make note of that.
Right, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Sir, can I just, this is a proposal for the ULA, so in June, you'll see it again
Okay,
as the official.
gotcha.
That's
I guess I would like to thank these teachers for their time and expertise and involvement with Brainerd Public Schools. And we're sorry to see you go.
Thanks. Thanks, Michelle. All right, we do need to do a roll call vote because this is a resolution.
DJ Dondelinger,
Yes.
Stephanie Ederman,
Yes.
Randy Heidemann,
Yes.
Sarah Spear,
Yes.
John Ward,
Yes.
Michelle Brecken.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have approval of the first reading of MSBA Policy 512, School-Sponsored Student Publications and Productions, presented by Christina Lundgren.
Hello.
Welcome.
So I'm here to ask for the approval of the first reading that we adopt the MSBA model policy language for Policy 512. And from our current Brainerd Public Schools Policy 512 include Article 4, which is the review of publications and productions, and Article 6, which is the appeal procedure. They are both procedural in nature. We move those to an appendices of the adopted model policy. And I did include in the school board memo a comparison of the two policies. The content, the nature of the content is really similar. It's really the organization of some of the components and updating the language, where in some spaces it was more concise in the model policy, and in other spaces they were more, I think, robust and descriptive in portions of that policy. So.
I'll make a motion to accept it.
All right.
I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. Motion by Director Dondelinger, second by Director Edelman. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
this is the first reading, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Good clarification. Any other questions? Christina, this was a huge undertaking, just looking at your spreadsheets and the back and forth, and thank you for doing the work. Thank you, make this happen. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, the same. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have discussion and action regarding serving food and beverages in the Gitche Center for the Arts, presented by Anne Marie. What do you think about this deal? I don't know. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Hi there. I included a memo with the packet that would have been sent out to try to give some background on this, but we did receive a request
to be allowed to serve beverages within the auditorium space at the Getchee Center for the Arts. Currently, our district policy does not allow for that. We discussed this request at the policy committee board meeting in April and decided to bring it forward to the larger group for consideration. There's several areas within policy 902 that disallows that, and I've gone through and done a red line of both policy 902 and policy 902 Appendix B. That would be the changes that would be accepted if it was decided tonight that we will start to allow the service of food and beverage. I shouldn't say a service. Allow it to be taken into the auditorium. Currently, we only allow it in the lobby space. The request is actually for an event where alcohol would be served. So that's what the specific request is for, but the policy change would be to allow for beverages to be served and taken into the auditorium. So I guess I would be up for kind of discussion as to what you think of that space. When I think it was first built, concern was it obviously adds to the mess in the space and the cleaning and all that needed. I've looked at other community theaters that operate similar to ours, not necessarily as part of a school district, but for the community. And typically, food and beverages are served and allowed to be taken into the auditoriums. School districts, it varies. I've checked with a few of them, and several do sell concessions. It's not a huge moneymaker, but they'll sell concessions at some theater events and allow those things to be taken in. If you decide tonight that you would allow for that, I would want to put together some staff to go through a procedural document just so we think through what we would specifically allow and not allow as far as, or any requirements that we have, for example, lidded cups, colors of beverages, that kind of thing. We did look at what some potential extra expenses would be to the district, and one of them was an annual steam cleaning of the seats in the entire auditorium to keep them clean. So we did get estimates from a couple of different companies on how much that would cost, and we've talked about how we could potentially pass those costs on to the facility users. So
are they pushing for it, the people that want to rent it?
yes,
So you think you could rent it more often if you have this?
possibly.
Are we getting to the point where we're making money on it yet?
Depends on what you mean by
Well,
making
we've
money.
talked about it before. If we're just renting it out more and losing more money, then why rent it out? Let's keep it nice and new. You know, I mean, it's stupid. It sounds silly because why would we have this beautiful thing and not let people use it? But
Right.
the other side of the coin, if every time we rent it out, we lose money, it's just wearing it out, wearing the seats out, wearing the floor out, wearing everything out. So it's like, if we can't make dough, then I think we should just keep it for ourselves for graduations and Lakes area, music. Probably
You know,
the
our direct costs with the space right now are staff costs. You know,
we're not paying rent or anything.
right.
I get it.
We aren't.
Right, we are, but we aren't.
But you know, there are going to be expenses coming up in the future for replacement of, you know, equipment that's in there, and then potential other repairs and maintenance, long-term maintenance. Do we make enough money to cover all that? Not at this point. We do want to be exploring some strategic planning around that space and how we can try to make it more self-sustaining for the long-term future. And food and drink might play a pretty big role in that, so.
Remember what a big deal it was? Stephanie, you weren't on the board.
Yeah.
But when we had to vote to allow it, remember Boyles was just like, they're just torn and.
And that was just in the lobby?
In the lobby.
Yeah.
It's already in the lobby.
It is in the lobby.
So.
So Christina, you believe that if we were to approve being able to bring food and beverage into the theater, that would increase revenue?
I don't know that it would increase revenue for us directly, but it may allow for more events that would want to come in, you know, to the space. It would just give it a different environment. Right now, we do allow nonprofits can come in and have alcohol. at events if they follow our
lobby.
steps.
Yeah,
In the lobby, yep.
You have to quit serving when the thing starts, and then they can have it at halftime.
Yep, yep, and so, it does limit the amount, which is good. I mean, we don't want people over consuming, but it also tends to rush people and they're unable to bring it in after purchasing it, so.
Can we do one without the other?
One.
Well,
like
I think that if I'm carrying in the nachos with my 6-year-old and my 7-year-old, I wouldn't be surprised if you get some cheese and salsa and some stuff on your chairs. Where if it's carrying a beer in and you dump a little beer on the floor, what's the big deal?
Right, and that's where I think we come up with
Where are they supposed to
that.
put the food? There's nowhere to set it.
Right.
You're sitting in like a theater chair, where you
Right.
put your popcorn would be one thing.
The important thing to remember, the owner can determine what food is going to be served.
Yeah.
You're the owner.
Yeah.
She's the owner.
Right. The other thing is that Anne Marie and I talked about was maybe try it for the summer and see how it goes. And before we launch, 12 months and so forth, because this is plowing new ground, but, and I understand what you're saying. If you don't use it, what's the point of it being there?
Yeah.
And the community paid for it. And they're paying for it, actually. So I think, and I'll be honest with you, I'm hesitant as all crazy.
I am too.
I am too.
But I'm also very supportive of the idea that if we have this beautiful vehicle that can attract people into town, and the next thing you know, if we can manage it appropriately, and we can create fundraising for the Gitche, it helps with offsetting our costs out of our general fund.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the have and have not, but I think try it for the summer, see how it goes. But we're gonna pay attention, telling the vendors, hey, this isn't gonna be a free-for-all. These are our expectations, as she was alluding to. We're gonna have these criteria that you have to follow. If you don't, there's gonna be a penalty.
Do food,
Are we gonna allow this where children are involved
No.
inside the?
Well, I
Mhm.
mean, food and drink potentially, not
Not alcohol.
alcoholic beverages, no.
Just wanted to.
Well, but here, you're talking about a school function?
No, I'm talking
Or
about a private
community.
Well, you
event where
take your
children can
kid,
be
you
there.
take your kid to the Twins game, and the guy sitting next to you might be drinking
Right.
beer.
yeah.
What's the
And,
difference?
a child could go to
That's
a,
private,
yeah,
and they're paying big dollars for the privilege of drinking that beer.
Definitely paying big dollars. For
I mean, are we
beer.
gonna have, our rental agreements, are they gonna be a lot higher for people that wanna bring in alcohol into the auditorium? Versus
We-
not
You're
bringing
thinking,
in?
right?
huh?
That's what you're thinking.
Well, you're gonna charge an
You're gonna charge
additional
more,
right?
fee for cleaning, right?
Right, there would definitely have to be. So that's one of the things we've kind of been looking at too, even just with the large groups that come in for different activities, not just in the auditorium, but other spaces in the gymnasiums, and potentially adding a fee. We have our facility fees that cover, just basics, but adding like a fee that's per number of people in attendance to help cover some of the, not the custodial time, because we do charge extra for that, but offsetting expenses that are incurred by our buildings and grounds team for paper products, for soap, for all that kind of stuff. You get a crowd of 2,000 people into the gym
Yeah,
on the
they're gonna-
weekend. It uses a lot of that up. And so then we talked about, could we also help offset the cost of some annual maintenance that needs to be done in the auditorium by steam cleaning the seats, by having this kind of just a fee that when you have, it's one thing if you bring in 12 kids to practice basketball in a gym, another thing if you bring in 1,000 people to watch
Craft fair or something.
an event and it's big and there's a lot of people coming through and using the facilities. So we talked about creating kind of a separate fee depending on number of people. And I think that would come into play in the Gitche most often, so.
I think Madam Chair, I think we made big concessions when we decided to go add alcohol to the upper lobby and the lower lobby. And it's worked out okay, I think, from what I've seen and heard and things as such. I'm not in favor of carrying that alcohol or food into the auditorium. We've got a beautiful facility. I think that is it's relatively new, obviously. And I think that the number of activities is going to increase period, no matter, you know, if we allow food or not or whatever. I'm not in favor of it. I'm voting no.
I'm not convinced allowing food and beverage in the theater is going to attract more people coming in. I'm not convinced of that.
We don't know.
The renters must
Don't
be.
know.
We don't know.
I think we should just try it for the summer and see how it goes. Why are we having that beautiful space just sit empty?
It's not sitting empty. There's people in there
I
all
know,
the time. But
But we
I
should be
don't,
making some money to keep it going. Do you know what I mean?
well,
More
then should
people
we
get in there.
increase the rental fees?
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely,
Yes,
absolutely.
But no, and because I'm still not convinced I want to have food and beverages in that theater. I think it's a beautiful space. I think the lobby's beautiful. I think the upstairs is a beautiful
Yeah, it is
space to
beautiful.
have food and beverage. But bringing it into that theater, I'm just not convinced that that is going to bring in additional revenue, significant additional revenue.
It is more likely to cost us more.
Right.
Could be.
Yeah, so.
That's why I'm hesitant, because it's,
Yeah.
It's hard.
But I go back to Peter's point, you know, the reason we have that facility is because the community said yes to question 3. And they said, we want a community space like this, that the community can do things that the school district can't necessarily do. And so it puts us in this really unique situation that we promise this to the community. And how do we be a good partner and deliver on that and still be a school district? And so I'd love to give them the opportunity to try this and see how it goes for that reason, because I think we do need to be a good partner for the community and community events.
How long is the Lakes Area Music Festival in there? Was it like 6 weeks?
About that, yeah, with
So that's
practice.
pretty much half the summer. Are they the ones pushing for this?
Yes.
Right now, yes, that's where the request originated from.
It's got like,
So after we approved bringing alcohol into the lobby, I had many community members reaching out, being very disappointed that we made that decision.
really?
Yeah, yeah. So are we being bad stewards by still saying we don't want to bring food and beverage into the theater part? I don't think that's giving the community a message that we are not sharing. I think it's just saying we are protecting this beautiful space.
From my perspective, it's just like you said, we are working with the community. We're protecting that place. We're protecting the beauty of it and the longevity of it. You know, you start steam cleaning stuff and you're wearing stuff out. You're wearing stuff out. So.
And I think that's the reason why it's here. That's why it exists, is to get used and for the community to use it. I think it's nice to invite them in, so.
Is that what you'd like? Is that what community ed would like? Is that you'd like us to let you have a shot at this? Well, I mean, is that why you're here, or are you just letting us know information? I mean.
Yeah, I'm bringing the request forward,
The
so,
request is from you or from the,
from our users, yeah,
which is one user?
so far. But I know there are other users who would definitely take advantage of it if we made that change, so.
And are they willing to pay a higher cost?
Well, they'll have to.
They'd have to.
And when you say higher cost, are you thinking we would increase facility fees or add that extra charge on for having food and beverage in the space? I think there's probably gonna be extra custodial fees regardless, because we charge
we just leave it.
I think
actual.
there's a number of ways you could go. You could increase the rent, you could have a huge damage deposit, et cetera, and give it a shot. I don't have a problem with it. The only thing that bothers me is, one, is the next group gonna come and they're gonna want alcohol and watching basketball games.
Well,
And someone's gonna say, oh, you can't do that because that's school property. Well, who the hell owns GZ? We do. The school district does. Or at the football games. Have a little happy hour before the football game.
NCAA did it. It's coming your way. Get ready.
Well, I'm just saying.
It used to be, I go to the Final Four every year. There's no Final Four, there is now.
You know, let's give it a shot, but don't be surprised if somebody doesn't come and say, oh, hey.
I'll go to this game now and get a beer.
well,
Couldn't do that 10
Randy,
years ago.
just to clarify that, the State High School League does not approve that.
Yeah.
No.
So that would be a no for basketball, football, and so forth.
Or speech.
They don't approve of it?
No.
Or
Beach
they don't
tournament, you
allow
can't be
it?
drinking at that
Okay,
age.
there's a difference.
Yeah, they don't allow
They
it.
don't allow it. Okay, no.
That's why if you go to the,
Right.
you know, Viking Stadium,
You can figure out how
not
much
any
more to
vendor
charge,
selling
right?
anything,
Yeah,
other than
yeah,
food.
we'll work on that.
No.
And I think the, you know, the conversation around building the football field or the basketball arena is probably very different than the community saying, we want this public performing space, and this is why.
I thought it was worth bringing up. It just seems like, you know, alcohol is always used to raise revenue. Must do pretty well.
I think so. I mean, it's gonna have to at least be,
Well, I know it
we can
does.
talk about it.
You know, it's kind of an oxymoron, you know, we're trying to teach kids something, but yet, you know, hey, you know. If they're
Madam
around
Chair.
it anyway, they're around it anyway.
So that we can get going, I'm gonna move that we decline the request.
And I'm going to second it.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of declining the proposal, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose the same?
Aye.
I'll make a motion that we try it for the summer.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion, let's do a roll call vote, because I don't know, how did you vote, Sarah? I didn't hear.
I decline.
Okay, so it's 4-2 then, okay, thank you.
3-2.
I just didn't,
No, it's 4
4-2.
4-2.
Oh, you declined. I thought you declined to vote. I thought it was one of John's deals, where he's passing, or when John passed. Like, I'm not sure you can do that. Not the legislature anymore. Pass.
Okay, so where are we at here?
DJ, make the motion
Motion by
again.
Director Donalinger.
Second. Well,
Yeah, doesn't
Wait,
matter.
there's already a motion, we already voted.
You already took a 4-2, no.
Yeah.
Right, so now we're gonna do a new one, and I'm gonna make a motion that we
Oh,
try
okay.
it.
Yes.
We leave it up to
Oh, for the
community ed
Summer.
to run it for the summer.
Okay.
Okay.
And then, we don't need to put it in the motion, but just so you know, we wanna see a little breakdown of how much more money came in
Yes.
at the end of the summer. Can you do that for us?
And then we can also, we need to review the alcohol policy annually anyway, which would be due this fall, so we
We'll
can
do that same
talk
time,
about
and
it.
if we
Yeah.
don't like it, we can get rid of it then.
Yes.
Can we put dates around for the summer, what that means, like kids out of the building?
Labor Day?
To kids back in the building? Yeah,
Yeah, Memorial to Labor.
okay.
Fine with me.
All right, we've got another motion by Director Donalinger, second by Director Edelman, to approve or adopt a pilot for serving food and beverage this summer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same.
Nope. Aye.
No, or whatever.
Motion passes. All right, good discussion.
thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thanks, Anne Marie. All right, moving on to committee updates, committee meeting updates. First one is Policy and Legislative Committee by Chair Edelman.
Well, Anne Marie just talked about the main one that we had talked about, and then Christina had talked about the other one. So those were pretty much a couple policies we had discussed at the last meeting. So we're good.
Excellent, that worked out well. Long Range Planning and Facilities Committee,
Yep.
Director Ward.
Yep, so we talked about the accomplishments, custodial team members are acquiring boiler licensing, training and testing provided by IEA and MASMS. So far, 2 custodians have passed the testing. That's big because we haven't had that with the custodians lately, so there's more advancement going on here. Strategic planning, met with WIDSEF to clarify planning on long-range and short-term plans for the lower site. They're looking at what needs to be done, and technology, Ryan made sure, or we talked about technology, making sure if we do anything with the lower site, that technology is also included as a, as a improvement. Excuse me. Construction and project updates. The Riverside roof replacement will be done. BHS and Forest View Middle School tennis courts will be resurfaced. Riverside volunteer pre-K program and bathroom renovations will be done this year. Garfield bathroom renovations will be done. Hey, Miss Kennedy. And then signings for the Gitchy will be up early in the summer with the lighted space there. we talked about, did we vote, temporary easement by MinDOT on the Highway 210 improvements? Is that on?
It was a consent.
It was on the consent.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, so we're done with, so we talked about it. And then our future meetings, that's it, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, moving on to informational updates. Brainerd Public Schools Foundation with Director Ederman.
Okay, so, May 21st is the scholarship recognition night. If anybody wants to volunteer, they are still looking at volunteers for that night. 187 seniors applied for the Brainerd Public School Foundation scholarships. This year, it was up to, so they awarded $226,000 this year, up from 181 last year.
Jeez.
Wow.
And at the recognition night, they will also be recognizing an additional $328,000 in external community scholarships, as well as military awards at that recognition ceremony. So if you want to go volunteer, it is May 21st.
May 21st, so, at what
Yes.
building?
It is at the
Forest View?
Forest View.
Forest View, and you know what, you can call Jessica. She has a sheet that you can just tell her this is, there's like, what was there? There was 6 or 8 different areas to volunteer at.
To volunteer at, different jobs or whatever?
Different jobs.
Jessica, you
Gangle,
get hold
yeah.
of Jessica Gangle,
I can
okay,
give you her number if you want it.
okay.
Thank
And then, do you say that's 6 PM? Or does anybody know it's at 6 PM?
Ooh, I can look and I'll let you
I
know.
think it's
have
6
it in
PM.
my-
It might be in the future meeting
Yeah.
section.
Yeah, I have it in my,
21st?
PM.
Yeah, 6 PM, Forest View
you know
cafeteria.
what, I can forward you the sign-up doc.
Okay, thank you.
Would you do that for me
Yep.
too, Stephanie?
I'll do it right now.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, thank you, Stephanie. Moving on to Safe and Welcoming Schools Committee, Director Brecken.
Okay, so Thursday on May 8th was our final Safe and Welcoming Schools Committee meeting for the school year. We've been working on creating a plan for supporting principals in leading their sites with regard to the interrupter language, which is stopping harmful language in the moment. And that's what we'll continue to do as we prepare for the return of students in the fall.
Thank you.
Okay.
And next up, the Wellness Task Force update.
Okay, we met with Christina Lundgren and Sandy Tauges to further the discussion of piloting pieces of the Project 11 curriculum that align with the MDE health standards in grades 5 through 8 health classes for the 2025-26 school year. Secondary health teachers and counseling staff will be given the opportunity to attend Project 11 training on, we think it'll be June 5th. All trained staff are then given full access to the curriculum K-12. Christina will be sharing more specific information at the curriculum committee meeting next week. Smiles for Jake will be providing advocacy training and an introduction to Project 11 for all staff on June 6th from 8 to 9 at the Gitche Center. School board members are invited to attend. And then we intend to spend the summer months identifying ongoing wellness opportunities for staff and students and create subcommittees that will help address those needs that align with our mission statement of promoting wellness and brain health. So that's that.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, before we get to Marcy and Superintendent Grant, I've just got 2 other announcements. Can I give these announcements that I promised to give?
Sure, are they like dates on the calendar or?
No. It's, one of them is about free books giveaway, and one of them is about a Senate bill. Okay, so Tuesdays at Westgate Mall from 9 to 3, there's free book giveaways to schools, nursing homes, and nonprofits, sponsored by the Friends of the Library. The high school just started a free library, or free book giveaway over in the high school. In 4 days, they had 100 books taken from the kids took 100 books. She has to go back tomorrow and get more books now. So, but they wanted me to announce that they've got thousands and thousands of books to schools, any schools, and nursing homes and nonprofits. Then the last announcement is the seasonal rec replacement aid bill is now in the Senate bill, going to conference committee. So there, I wanted you all to know and we could still use some contacts to our local representatives, our local senator and our local rep to support and get on that bill. Because it's be significant for us, big time, for our area. And it's moving. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, business services report.
So in your board packet is the financial report. It is updated with the budget revision that I presented in March. Nothing new to note. We're tracking higher in community service, just like I had noted before, just with a difference in how we're paying teachers. And then building construction, we're tracking a little bit higher just because we are wrapping up those projects. And you had asked about the donation. There was a letter of commitment from the Just for Kicks, and that was the last payment.
Oh, okay.
So just FYI on that.
Thanks, Marcy.
Yeah. And then enrollment report. So from the beginning of the year, we're down 79. When we look back at the last 6 years, the average is about 95. So we're tracking actually a little bit less than the average.
Good deal.
Yeah. So hopefully we can close out the year and have our ADMs show up, if not better than the revised budget. Any questions?
Thank you, Marcy.
Thank you.
All right, last but not least, our superintendent report.
We are starting in the heart of negotiations with several employee groups. Last week, we met with EMB, and it was a very good meeting. Little humor thrown around, and I think that's a good sign. Of course, everything is going to be determined what happens in St. Paul. And we're not going to sit and wait, talk about nothing. We're just going to have to wait and see what the numbers look like. I would prefer we get done at ASAP, but St. Paul's going to make the decision before we do. I also think it's really important that over the next 15 days, basically, is what school's got left. Probably is a good time for you to go visit a school just to see what happens toward the end. It's always easy to go at the beginning when it's celebratory and it's brand new and everybody's kind of excited. Now comes the crazy part. Everybody wants to get done. The teachers are pressed to the wall to get through the things they intended to get through. The seniors, for the most part, God bless them, have checked out. Except for those who, the call's going to come to mom and dad, don't order the cake, or you can order the cake, which I have been through too many times. But if you go to the schools, there is just different levels of energy. The elementaries are on fire because the kids, first of all, they get to be outside a little bit more, but they know what's coming. And I would say from K through 8, it's pretty much that way. At the high school, though, it's a totally different atmosphere because some people are leaving. Some people are moving from juniors to seniors, which is a really head thing for juniors. I just want you to know. And the sophomores are heading into limbo because it's their second year through. And when you become a junior, it's kind of like, I don't have anything to worry about, do I? I got another year to go. And it is. All the time I've been with, as a principal, the juniors are an interesting group because they're just kind of floaters. Everybody else is getting brand new. Now, when the 9th graders come in next year, of course, they're the ones who are going, oh my God, what are we going to do here? So I would really encourage you to just go visit and watch. And of course, the last day is really, I think, a lot of fun. It is a celebratory time. Totally different, though, than the first day of school. Totally different. But in a very good way, it's still celebratory. So if you get a chance, take a tour, one of the last couple of days of school because it's pretty exciting. That's it.
Great, thank you. All right, we've got a number of future meeting dates. I wanted to pick out one specifically, June 9th, the regular school board meeting. We are moving that back to June 9th. You might remember we had changed it. There's no longer a need for that change, so we'll move it back to June 9th. And then you'll also see there's just a number of graduation celebrations, and as you guys know, that's kind of the best part of this whole gig. So get them on your calendar, and if you can go, that's fantastic. It's just awesome to watch those kids cross the stage. All right, we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
We've got a motion by Director Ward and a second by Director Ederman. Assuming no discussion, all